All right, thank you. Well, welcome everyone, and good morning. We'll try to get through this fairly efficiently since the Bills game's already started. But we decided to do this presentation now actually at the request of the Finance Committee. Today's topic is the qualified charitable distribution and charitable gift annuities. But as we're in that time of year, not just at Bethlehem, where we're considering sharing our treasure or the ministry of the church for next year, but many people make their charitable gifts to other nonprofits that they support, perhaps their alma mater, the YMCA, whatever, at this time of year. So we're going to talk this morning about a couple of tax-efficient ways to do that. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Mark Gall. I am a member of the congregation, and before retiring, I worked at a private university in the area in their fundraising department for 17 years and worked with donors using QCDs and charitable gift annuities. And my partner this morning is Mike Widener, also a longtime member of the congregation, and who is a professional financial advisor and a Bills season ticket holder. So he has a vested interest in getting through this very efficiently. Andy, next slide. All right, so this is what we're going to cover today. Again, Mike's going to cover the qualified charitable distribution, and I will then focus on charitable gift annuities. And although I have Q&A at the end, I think it would be best if we break after Mike's thoughts on qualified charitable distribution and do Q&As for that, and then we'll do the same thing after charitable gift annuities.
Okay, next slide. All right, so qualified charitable distributions have been around, I think, since 2006 or 2007. And what that is, when people say QCD, essentially what it is a way of being able to get a tax deduction on your donations, even if you are claiming the standard deduction on your tax return, okay? If anybody needs more detail on that, I'd be glad to go into it, but I think we all know that a few years ago they raised the amount on the standard deduction, which means that most people, if they're donating to charity, unless you're doing the $300 on your tax return, most of you are not getting a tax deduction with your contributions to BLC, okay? What they have done is if you're over the age of 70 and a half, and the reason they picked 70 and a half, many of you who are over 70 and a half probably remember that used to be the age that you were required to take money out of your IRA, if you have one, okay? They changed the rule, so last year it was 72, and this year it's 73, and it's gonna go up to age 74 in a few years. But the 70 and a half is still staying. So even if you're not required to take money out of your IRA, you can still write checks out of your IRA to the church, and essentially what you're doing is you're reducing the value of your IRA. It doesn't necessarily give you a tax break, but it gets money out of your IRA that you will probably pay taxes on in the future, okay? So if you are at the age where you have to make a required distribution, and I guess the best way to describe it is when I was 18, the drinking age, they raised it to 19, and I was just over the edge there. So I was the one that used to buy beer for all my friends, and then they raised it to 21, and I still was over the edge. It's kind of, they're doing the same thing with the QCDs here as well. So they keep raising the age, but that 70 and a half is still staying, okay? So essentially what we're doing here is, if I know that just like everybody else here, we all want to give to the church here. What we're trying to do here with this is just trying to help you make it the most tax-friendly way of doing things. If there's a way to do it, if you're already doing it one way and you're not getting the write-off, this is a perfect way to do it. And I was just talking to somebody who's in the hallway that said that a lot of these brokerages, you have to ask them for that. They will not necessarily volunteer that they have an IRA checkbook for you. But what most of these firms will do is if you ask them hi, I want to donate money to my church. Can I get a checkbook that I can write directly from my IRA? They will probably do it for you, and if they give you any pushback, just ask for a manager or something like that. One important thing to note is if you are over the age of 70 and a half, you're taking the distribution and then writing the check, you will not get a write-off for that, okay? So I think I've covered everything here. Well, obviously we want to help further the ministry of BLC, which is the main reason for this. Okay, let's go to the next slide, Andy. Thanks. Yeah, so like I said, contact your plan administrator. Like I said, almost all of them will allow you to have a checkbook that you can write directly from your IRA. We talked about that, and we just talked about that. So one other important thing to note, it only works with IRAs, individual retirement accounts, okay? If you have a Roth IRA, it's pointless because that's already tax-free money. If you have a 401k or 403b, you would have to roll it over into an IRA. And if you still have money in a 401k, all you have to do is call the provider. There's really, unless you're taking a loan, there's really little downside to rolling your 401k or 403b over into an IRA. And most providers allow you to have the IRA there, so you don't even have to switch firms. Okay? How was that?
Mike, there was one other, we talked about, this isn't really part of the topic, but you wanted to bring up the topic of appreciated stock at this time of year.
Yes, and one other thing is if you're younger than 70 and a half and you still want to donate to church and you're frustrated because you're not able to take a write-off, one thing you can still do that's still allowed is if you have appreciated stock, something that you may have inherited or something that you've owned for a long time, that maybe the cost basis on it, the purchase price of that stock may have been, very, very low, and now it's very, very high, and you don't want to sell it because you have to pay taxes on it, you can still donate that stock to the church. You just have to, who would they talk to? Probably. Just ask me or ask Pastor. We'll find out who's in charge of that. But people are still doing that. If you have stock, like a lot of people that put money in paychecks 30 years ago, they bought it for pennies a share and now they have it for, whatever. You can't sell it, but you can still donate it to the church. All you have to do is just contact somebody from the church and they'll hook you up with a person from the church that'll allow you to do it. So basically, instead of selling it and paying tax on it, you can donate the church. And then the church, when they sell it, they don't pay tax on it either. Okay. Now, questions?
Talk about donor advised funds.
Okay.
The question was donor advised funds. Andy asked if you could talk a little bit about that.
You can do donor advised funds. Many firms out there. What a donor advised fund is basically, it's a mutual fund. You can take appreciated stock, put it into this mutual fund. It'll still grow. Or you could put cash if you want to get a write-off. In either case, you do get a write-off for your taxes, and then you can write checks out of this donor advised fund, even if you're under the age of 70 and a half. Doesn't matter how old you are. And then you can also donate money to charities as well too. And it doesn't have to be a mutual fund. There's firms out there that have stock portfolios, and there's plenty of choices out there. I guarantee you, if you have a brokerage account anywhere, that they can advise you on that as well. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds with that, but basically it is a good way to, if you have either appreciated stock or you're trying to get a tax write-off, that's a good way to do that. Good question.
Easier than trying to transfer stock to the church.
It's easier for the church.
It's easier for us to do that than try to figure out how to transfer a share of stock to the church.
I would say that I guarantee you someone in the church will figure out how to get it done no matter how you want to do it.
Trust me, it's like.
Okay, thanks.
There are a couple people who do that.
Okay, good, excellent. So if you have questions on that, you can ask me. Obviously Andy knows how to do it as well too, but I don't want to downplay it, I'm sorry. I just didn't want to get too deep in the weeds with that, so thank you.
Hey, Mike. Yes. You were saying that assets must be in an IRA, not a 401k or a 403b.
Right.
I'm a public employee. I have a 457.
Yeah, 457s won't work either. You have to, but that's okay. You have until you're age 70 and a half to do it.
Yeah.
And you don't have to roll the entire thing over. You can
Yeah, Don, you've got some time. You're not even close to 70 yet, buddy.
I know I got plenty of time, but I'm just thinking ahead.
By then, they'll change the tax law again.
True.
Yeah, the comment from Don was he's a public employee and we didn't have 457 plans up here. You know, we're just using as an illustration that it must be an IRA, not a 401k, a 403b, or a 457 plan. All right, thanks. One thing I did want to circle back to is the $100,000 total. Okay, you can use the QCD to make total gifts in any 1 year up to $100,000 total. And just going back, and I should have done the caveat at the beginning that Mike and I are not offering tax advice to anyone. Your situation is certainly going to be different. But so Margie and I turned 70 in this coming February. So we will be able to take advantage of the QCD next year for the first time. What some of my donors did when I worked in fundraising is they actually doubled up their charitable giving in the first quarter of a year to cover the prior year as well as the year they're in and make a much larger gift. And then they were in the situation where they might be able to itemize deductions. But the QCD actually makes it so that you really don't need to worry about getting a charitable tax deduction because the money just never appears in your gross income. And therefore, it's the same as a charitable tax deduction.
Yeah, and that brings a good point. If you happen to be in your late 60s, your best bet is to probably hold off for 1 year. Don't make any donations the year you're 69 and double up the year that you turn 70 and a half. One other caveat, too, is I always think it's a good idea to do your contributions earlier in the year rather than later in the year, because if for some reason the charity that you write the check to doesn't cash it, even though you've written it in this year, if they don't cash it until January 1st, January 2nd of 2024, it counts as a 2024 contribution, and then you'll probably be short on your required distribution if you happen to be over 73. So just keep that in mind as well.
Okay, any other questions on QCDs before we shift gears to talk about charitable gift annuities? Okay, next slide. Thanks, Andy. So if any of us have been following the stock market at all for the last year, and I'm sure looking at the ages of everybody here, we have been, we know that the market's been kind of up and down, but mostly down, I'd say, over the last 12 months. I'm thinking the S&P probably got into 4,600 territory before it kind of started its kind of up and down, sort of downward slide to where it is today. So if you want a situation where you're looking for some fixed guaranteed income payments, then a charitable gift annuity might be for you. And so we're talking about charitable gift annuities because we're assuming that you have charitable intent, okay, for BLC, for other nonprofits you support. So that's why we're talking about them this morning. And so you can take a charitable gift annuity out for just yourself for one lifetime, or you can take them out for, in the case of a spouse, you can take them out for 2 lives. But the rates are slightly different, and they're actually slightly more complicated to talk about, but we'll get to that in a second. So you could receive a charitable income tax deduction for the charitable portion of the gift if you can itemize deductions. So you want to talk to your tax preparer or financial person about that. And also a portion of the payments that you receive could be partially tax-free, again, depending on your situation. Next slide, Andy. Okay, so the way that you create a charitable gift annuity, and for our purposes, we are not a large enough entity that we can guarantee and stand behind charitable gift annuities ourselves as a church. So for the purposes of today's discussion, we're going to talk about the ELCA and the ELCA Foundation. So to create a charitable gift annuity, you would transfer cash or other assets such as appreciated stock that Mike mentioned earlier to the ELCA Foundation. And in return, they'll send you fixed payments for life. And by the way it worked at the institution I worked at, and I think in a lot of institutions, generally those payments are, I think you can choose quarterly, semi-annually, or annually, generally not monthly. They generally, quarterly is as frequent as we ever did them. Again, they can be quite high depending on your age. at the time you start them. I'm going to put a chart up here in a second that shows some example interest rates, and they're based on actuarial tables of life expectancy, okay, as you'll see when you look at the charts. Again, you'll receive a charitable income tax deduction, the charitable portion of the gift, and of course, enjoy the satisfaction of supporting the mission of BLC, the ELCA, and any other nonprofit that you support. Next slide, Andy. All right, so here's an example. It's kind of small, this table, but the ELCA Foundation, most other nonprofits, I know the university that I worked with, also followed rates from the American Council for Gift Annuities. Although each institution doesn't, nonprofit generally doesn't make up their own rates for the charitable gift annuities that they offer. So this table says at age 69, this is for a single annuitant, so one person, the rate would be 5.8%, going up to at 72 at 6.2, and all the way up to 80, it would be 7.6%. Okay, pretty decent rates. Now, the way things work, one more slide, Andy. Next slide. So I mentioned a different rate table exists for CGAs for two annuitants, and they can be quite complicated, and so we'd suggest that you speak with an expert such as Ryan Ebner, who's the regional gift planner for the ELCA. His contact information is here. It's also on our website in the IMF portion of the website. But he can create, over the phone, if you give him the information, he'll create and either email or mail to you a personalized illustration of a charitable gift annuity, what your rate would be, what your anticipated income would be. And every institution has a minimum amount for establishing a charitable gift annuity. For the ELCA, it is $10,000. And you may designate up to 2 different ELCA charities as beneficiaries of the CGA.
And again, you can use appreciated stock for this as well. Again, you can give the church appreciated stock. You can do the charitable, Andy, what's it called again? The donor advised funds, I'm sorry, brain fart. Said that in church, oh well. Sorry about that. Yeah, mom's not here. She'd be like, we have to keep it a little light here, I think. This is a boring subject here. But again, the other way to do it is, if you want to just have it go directly to ELCA and you want to make it even easier, you just have a chunk of money or some appreciated stock and you don't want to have to deal with a brokerage or anything like that, you can just give the money directly to the church here as well too. And again, this would give you income out of it that would be partially tax-free as well.
Yeah, John's got a question. I'll let him ask it.
If for any reason that you want to give your money directly to the church and not the LCA, you can do the same thing. It's called the Charitable Remainder Trust or Charitable Gift Annuity, which you can do directly to Bethlehem.
Thanks, John. Yeah, we intentionally didn't want to get into things like charitable remainder trusts, in one in one seminar. Every institution that you give to with a charitable gift annuity will quote you a different amount. But for example, at my university, typically this is on average over many years. If you do a charitable gift annuity for $100,000, the university on average would realize about 60 to 70% of that as a gift at end of life is typically how it worked out at my institution.
And again, one thing I do want to add here in all seriousness is that the whole idea with this is I feel like that you're here not to keep money going from the IRS, but rather have it going to BLC. And that's the whole purpose of this, is we're just trying to give you a big overview. Certainly you can do all this with trusts. There's charitable remainder trusts, there's charitable lead trusts, all sorts of different things that you could talk to. Once you get into that level, you'd probably need to talk to an attorney to set something like that up. They're not outrageously expensive to do that, figure probably $3,000 to $5,000, but that way you have a lot more control over where your, how your money is managed once it's in the trust. and where the money goes as well too. There's also the Rochester Area Foundation, although I'm not sure if I've had some dealings with them in the past. You'll hear their advertisements on the radio or TV as well. So there are plenty of ways to do this. We're just trying to give you some simple, easy, quick, get you thinking about it.
Yeah, I think your point about attorneys, I think you could feel confident with the qualified charitable distribution and charitable gift annuities that if you're working with a reputable nonprofit, you don't need to involve an attorney to get your objectives accomplished with what you want to do. So, any specific questions on charitable gift annuities or even the QCD at this point? I think we've reached the end of our formal part of our presentation. I do have one handout that I was able to get from Ryan Ebner. It's just a 2-pager on charitable gift annuities with the ELCA if anybody would like one.
What does QCD stand for again? Quality, cost, and deployment. Thank you very much. Quality, cost, and deployment, 100%.
Qualified charitable distribution. Okay, thanks everyone for coming.
Yeah, Ryan Ebner is excellent. So if you get a chance to talk to Ryan, yeah, Ryan Ebner is excellent. He's our contact for the LCA. So if you have any questions or you want to run something by him, he'll actually come to your house if you want to do something. So give Ryan a call, and we can. Our committee can give you his number if you need it.
It's on the website. The number's on the website,
On the IMF website.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay. Thank you, everybody.